Today we're going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. In the last episode we saw, well, the Great Italian War, huge event, completely reshaped the Italian peninsula. We had some rise of some powers, some fall of some powers, and basically the Swiss just came in and showed everyone who's boss. If you couldn't tell, I'm voiceovering right now because the audio corrupted for the start. I don't really know what I said at the start of the video, but I think I've said everything I want to say, so let's go ahead and get on to the actual video. And I hope you enjoy, because in this episode we will be seeing a lot of countries forming, and maybe some people will have some new favourite countries. I don't know, we'll see. But to begin with, we are focusing on Italy, as we finally see that the rest of the Italian peninsula is fully explored, with people also discovering all of Sicily. Meanwhile, the rest of the island will actually go over to this purple country, which, despite having most of its land on Sicily, will actually have its capital over here on the main peninsula. But yeah, let me go ahead and fix these borders real quick for Genoa and this country. And there we go. We can see the island of, what's it called, Corsica? No, not Corsica. Sicily is split. And I guess to go ahead and finish this off, we see that Florence over here will be discovering Sardinia. And they will actually be managing to secure the whole entire island, which is a huge win for Florence. And definitely boosts their power and domination in this region. And this is a huge blow for Genoa, who instead of going through here anymore, has to go all the way around, which makes their ships quite expensive, or whatever shipping cost. But anyway, in the last episode we saw this Bohemian group end up popping up. And we're actually going to go ahead and see more migration take place as we see that people begin migrating over from here. Basically, some people in Croatia don't want to be Italian. The Croatian ethnicity is Italian. It's a sub-ethnicity. So these I guess people that don't want to be Italian will go ahead and move further south away from Italy. Although little do they know they're actually quite close to Italy. And eventually we see these people discover this sea over here. And we go ahead and see the creation of a brand new group of peoples. And these people will be the Albanian people, which will occupy a region that looks something like this. Kind of focused in this area. Meanwhile, in this region, the Croats will go ahead and, expand, the Croatian people. Meanwhile, we actually see with this, new Albanian, or Balkan ethnicity, that it actually splits off, and we kind of see this I guess you could say Serbian ethnicity end up popping up over here. I guess the green ethnicity will be known as the Balkan ethnicity, if you will. You could say Southern Slavs, but there aren't any Northern Slavs. But this kind of greenish color will be the Balkan religion, and we see that Serbian as well as Albanian ethnicity exists. We see over here two very powerful duchies emerge, the Duchy of Serbia and the Duchy of Montenegro, both Serbian ethnicities. Meanwhile, we see four, I guess, smaller duchies pop up. However, compared to most of the Italian duchies, they're quite big. Now, we see that these duchies are duchies, as basically there's still this idea that you need to be crowned in the Italian peninsula to become officially a kingdom. And basically, Venice won't do this. Venice doesn't see these kingdoms because obviously they're different ethnicity and racism real. Obviously, I know that the Kingdom of France, or well, it's not, but the French kingdom over here, I don't care, whatever I call it, Provence or whatever, they were crowned, but it's because they had good relations and trade with the Italian states. And they fled because of famine, I think, or something, right? I don't know. Whereas these people over here are viewed as, I guess, less, if you will, subhuman, whatever. However, we see over here in modern day Albania that Venice is actually going to be launching a campaign into this region, and we quickly see Venetian troops launch in, and they basically just commit horrible crimes to the Albanian people. You know, your classic stuff that medieval men did to women and stuff because they're weirdos over here. And we quickly see the leader, and we quickly see that the King of Venice is going to go ahead and make himself a legend by subjugating the Albanian people and also taking over Corfu here. As we see that Albania has become a part of the Kingdom of Venice. We also see a bunch more duchies appear over here. We see the Duchy of Macedonia appear here. We have the Duchy of North Macedonia. And then we have 5 more duchies. Maybe this is like Epirus or something. I don't know. I was tempted on calling this like Thessaloniki, but like that's a really Greek name. Oh, I mean I know Macedon is like Greek, but in this universe, the Macedonian people are actually Albanians. We see over in Croatia that the Dalmatian kingdom has expanded its realm quite nicely. Meanwhile, we see the creation of two brand new Croatian states. And then finally, we see the creation of around 4 brand new duchies over here, as we can see that the Balkan region, or at least the Western Balkan region, is becoming a lot more filled, which is nice to go ahead and see, with some emerging powers being Dalmatia over here, the Duchy of Serbia, the Duchy of Montenegro, I guess Venice, and then North Macedonia and Macedonia. But focusing back on Dalmatia, we're actually going to go ahead and see the creation of a brand new alliance. We go ahead and see the creation of a brand new alliance type, which will be signaled by a crown. And now, this is technically not an alliance, but it kind of is. This is like a personal union. So, the leader of one country is the same as the leader of the other country. And that is actually happening between Dalmatia and this like pink country here. As the Dalmatian king has inherited the throne of this country. Now, they're not one country, but they kind of are. And eventually we might see that this personal union like forms into one country. But that goes ahead and takes a while. And we actually see a few years later that the Dalmatian king will go ahead and inherit the crown of this like other pink country over here. And we actually see that Dalmatia is not the only country which has a personal union. And if you couldn't guess, it's Venice. In like episode 2 or something, or 1, I think it was 2, we saw that the Venetian queen basically went around and married all of her children off to other people. And now this new and now it's been probably like 2 leaders, and this king is going to start really feeling the impact of that. And the main place that this impact is felt is down here, when we see that the Venetian king has inherited quite a lot of thrones for himself. Inheriting the thrones of these 3 nations. Now, these nations are all still in the Italian Defensive Pact. And we also see this country right on the border is led by the King of Venice. Now, this country may have actually been on the other side of the war, but let's just say that the King of Venice was basically just given this land. However, it needs to exist as its own kind of entity. Basically, personal unions, the king of the like main country is in charge of all these countries. However, there'll obviously be like dukes here. But for the most part, everything is decided like in Venice. But this isn't too bad for Venice, as like they do have this down here and this, which is something, I guess. But sticking to Venice, I know we've like basically just been focusing on Italy. We're actually going to go ahead and see Venetian ships are going to go ahead and be exploring the oceans down here. Now there's going to be a lot of exploration taking place over here. And we're going to see that the Ionian Isles are going to go ahead and get discovered by Venice like so. Well, eventually, we see that Venice is going to go ahead and crash right into the Peloponnesian Peninsula, like so. And we quickly see that Venice is going to go ahead and set up a few trade colonies on this land. Setting up 4 different trade colonies, like so. And eventually, these trade colonies will expand to basically just be most of the Peloponnesian Islands, as Venice has soared up the ranks, now becoming the 2nd strongest country in the world, overtaking both Provence and Sardinia due to their powerful trade empire. They control all trade into the Adriatic, which is a lot, as it's like all of these like if we look at all the countries, it's like literally all of this. Like there's a lot of countries here that basically have all their trade going through the Adriatic, especially from like France. A lot of countries are trading with like this French country over here, and they have to go all the way around, and also with like Sicily and stuff. And speaking of Sicily, we actually see that Sicily is going to go ahead and be crowned the latest kingdom. They are pretty, you know, powerful. Like, as in terms of landmass, they're probably one of the biggest countries, but they will go ahead and be crowned a kingdom. And we'll also see this blue country here is crowned a kingdom. But anyway, moving away from Italy. But actually, we're not moving away from Italy. Well, we kind of are, but I just want to go ahead and discover this. Otherwise, this is going to annoy me. Also, down here, we actually see that the people over here, yeah, they're Italian. We see Venetian people end up mass moving into these regions, like so. Basically populating the region. However, we actually see that the rest of the land is populated by, like a Balkan, I guess, kind of peoples over here, like these Greek peoples. They're like Balkan, similar to Albania and Serbia. So we do go in and see that down in the south it's Italian, but up in the north it is Greek. Oh, also over here, I guess I'll just color everything the base Italian, or I guess technically this is the Venetian color. So basically everyone is Venetian. However, we do see over here that it is actually the Genoan people, like so, although I did pick the wrong color, this light pink color. And it's going over to Corsica, we actually see that a lot of Genoan and Turin people move to this island, which basically just removes most of the French people, leaving only just this tiny, like, southern region down here. I guess we'll actually go ahead and be a bit more tolerable, and we'll leave it something like that. Actually, you know what? I'm going the extra mile. It's literally just this tiny city down here, which remains with French people. The rest of the island is Genoan, and this is because mainly from like migration, but also maybe the Italian people are like bullying the French to leave, or they're being like forcefully kicked out or something. And we actually see that despite Florence being the main one to go ahead and discover and like colonize all of Sardinia, that actually in the north it will actually be Genoan people settling. Meanwhile in the south it is Sardinian people, like so. However, this does create a pretty stark divide between the north and the south of Sardinia. Looking at the ethnicity map, we go ahead and see that people will go ahead and explore quite far into Iberia. We see that the Catalan people end up occupying most of the Pyrenees, and that the Catalan people basically sit up over in this river. Now, you could call this like the Pyrenees people or the Catalan people, but we go ahead and see that a slightly different subgroup of people does go ahead and exist down here, as these people do go ahead and explore pretty far, like so. And we also see over here that Galicia is actually going to go ahead and be discovered, as a lot of Iberia does go ahead and like see famines over here, so people are forced to move elsewhere. As you're going to see, this like Valencian ethnicity exists down in the south. Meanwhile, in the north, it's kind of like this Catalan, or I guess I'll call this like the Pyrenees ethnicity. Meanwhile, over in this corner, we see that this new Galician ethnicity does go ahead and emerge like so. And this, I guess, kind of like Spanish or Iberian. I don't know what if you want to call this Spanish or Iberian. I'm actually going to go with like Iberian, I guess. But these three new Iberian ethnicities, similar to Italian and the Balkans, they're like very closely linked ethnicities, although they are, you know, slightly different. Meanwhile, we see a lot of people actually end up migrating to France, as it is a very flat, open region. You know, a lot of like droughts take place, and we do go ahead and see that many different groups of people settle in France, and France just comes like a melting pot or whatever. But we go ahead and see that in the south it is dominantly the Provence people, or I guess kind of southern French people, that go ahead and settle around this region. We do go ahead and see some Swiss do go ahead and settle. Meanwhile, over here, we see that people try and go as far as they can, and they will go ahead and discover Brittany, and, you know, parts of Normandy over here. Will actually set up their own completely different ethnicity. This isn't linked to the French ethnicity at all. There's like a stark difference. Now, they will be called the Britannia people, or I guess kind of the Brittany people, which I know is a French region. However, these people will be vividly different to the French. These people don't even call themselves French. So we can now call this the French ethnicity down here, but we're going to see the French and the Brittany kind of ethnicity over here, which does go ahead and populate a lot of this land. Reminder, this is distinctly different from the French. But we do go ahead and see that this ethnic group does extend decently far. Meanwhile, over here, it is in fact the Swiss, like so. As we also see that the Swiss have been the people to go ahead and settle all the way over here. And following this, we go ahead and see that a lot of this land is going to go ahead and be carved up. Down here, we see these two Italian duchies expand into the Alps. Meanwhile, we see over here that Trieste does a very good job at expanding, looking something like this, although most of their land is Italian. Elsewhere, the Swiss dictator, who is still alive, he's decently old now, is going to go ahead and subjugate all these lands. Now, I know these people are Swiss, but let's just kind of say that these people didn't really want to be part of the Republic, as the Republic is facing a few issues, but the Swiss dictator will have no problem subjugating them. However, we see that Switzerland does go ahead and have some clashes with the local Bohemian tribes up here, which isn't very good for the country. We do see the dictator does launch a campaign up into the Bohemian tribes. However, the Bohemian tribes do go ahead and repel them. Now, I'm really tempted to put, like, the tribes on a map here, united, but, like, it's going to look weird if they're, like, it's going to look like this is just one country. But keep in mind, Switzerland does go ahead and try to invade this, but they can't. We see that Provence expands quite a lot down here. We going to see a bunch of new duchies do go ahead and appear, although they all have the same colour for some reason. I don't really know why. Let me go ahead and make a green one. And what other colour don't we have? A yellow. This one can be yellow, although I don't really like that yellow. Let me do this yellow. So we go in and see the Provence expands quite nicely down here. Meanwhile, we have the Duchy of Aquitaine, as well as all of these duchies down here. Now, I'd say in terms of ethnicity map and diplomacy map, I've done a decent job at expanding. I guess we can go ahead and see some creation of some brand new Iberian kingdoms. And there we go. We go ahead and see the creation of a bunch of new duchies. We got some important ones like this Basque one, this pink one, the Pyrenees, and then this giant Valencian duchy down here, which is going to go ahead and request kingdom title, as they are by far probably, well, not actually, to be fair, Serbia might be bigger, but they are one of the biggest, I guess, kind of countries in the world, and they aren't a kingdom, which I know size does not equal, you know, status, but like, this is kind of an outrage. And this country really isn't taken seriously. I mean, we go ahead and see that Florence does go ahead and take the Balearic Islands, and is basically just kind of dominating, and this Valencian country is going to be having none of it. As we see Valencia go ahead and create the Diamond Alliance, joined up with a bunch of these countries over here, which all want to go ahead and show the Italians, you know, what's up. And we see a huge naval battle take place for this island over here, and we actually see that they're pretty outnumbered and, like, outskilled. Valencian fleet decisively actually manages to defeat the Florence fleet, and they go ahead and secure the Balearic Islands, and this is an absolutely huge embarrassment for Sardinia. There's almost nothing worse, as they are meant to have one of the strongest navies in the world, and they were just defeated, and they are forced to sign a humiliating peace treaty in which the Balearic Islands go ahead and go over to Valencia. And Valencia just goes over to Italy and is like, hey, I literally just defeated one of the strongest Italian states. Am I worthy yet? And Venice is like, yeah, not really, but you know what? We'll go ahead and give you a different title instead. Also, this alliance now ends. We go ahead and see that this Valencian country will actually be becoming a brand new colour. They will become this magenta colour, which actually represents Grand Duchy, as they will become the Grand Duchy of Valencia. Like so, and I will also go ahead and make their square bigger. And they become the world's first Grand Duchy, however, they're not the last, as we go ahead and see that Serbia owns the title of Grand Duchy. And I think that is about it in terms of who gets the Grand Duchy title. We also see that Aquitaine wants the Grand Duchy title, however they are told that they are not good enough, so El Aquitaine. But we are coming to the end of the episode. I don't know how long this episode is again. I feel like I've spent most of the recording, like, my problem is that I feel like I've spent most of the recording drawing countries, so I don't want this to be too short of a video, but I don't want to go so long that this video gets super long, because obviously I have to edit this. I've been recording for like 50 minutes now, but like that normally turns into like a 20-minute video, which is what I'm hoping for. But we haven't done many wars, so let's go ahead and look at a few wars. Firstly, we see the Venetian king enters a quarrel with these two countries here. And yeah, these countries mess with the wrong king, as these duchies will go ahead and be eradicated off the map by Venice. In which we see that this major city up here just gets completely destroyed. Meanwhile, this one is going to go ahead and get demoted to a normal city, as Venice is ever closer to connecting its exclave. Meanwhile, we see over here that these two kingdoms are very struggling, and eventually we see that the Genoan king enters a personal union with these two countries, and basically just fully annexes them, which does kind of raise concerns, because it's like, well, you just took away our sovereignty. But the Genoan king... But these people are also, like, Genoan, and they're right next to Genoa. So they are just kind of like, whatever, I guess it's not the end of the world if we go ahead and incorporate. They're, like, the dukes still keep their titles. They just basically are basically they just kind of benefit from this. So why not go ahead and join up with Genoa? Well, so we're going to go ahead and be seeing war. Well, we're going to go ahead and see this pink team is going to go ahead and wipe out this team. This team was once... This team, I think, was an op in the war. It might have actually been this team. I think it was actually this team. Well, they're going to go ahead and wipe out this team instead, and they will go ahead and fully annex them. Meanwhile, we see that this blue team is actually going to be the one to invade this green country. Just normal medieval war stuff, killing each other for no reason. So we go ahead and see that these two major cities will be moved down. If I can go ahead and do the right kind of layer stuff over here. And we see that tensions are rising up in this region, as it's looking like some of these countries may turn to Florence's side because, you know, they hate Genoa. Like, Genoa is kind of like in their region. And this city is becoming a major trade hub. Like, this city is outperforming, like, all the cities around it, which is kind of making everyone else jealous. I mean, like, when your city's Rome and you're, like, not going to have plot armor, like, BFFR, bro. And for the final event, before some power rankings, we're actually going to be looking at the ethnicity map. And we're actually going to be looking up in this region. As up here, there is this orange ethnicity. However, a huge famine is going to hit this place, and this orange ethnicity is actually going to ravage into the Swiss people. And basically, they're just going to kind of massacre everyone. Also over here, and even in the French, as this kind of Burgundian ethnicity exists over here. Now, when I say massacre, they're not going to massacre everyone. This region was pretty sparsely populated, but basically these people are going to, like, move here. They'll massacre a few people, but, like, 90% of the population will remain here. It's just that these Burgundian people are moving in mass numbers. But these Burgundian people will go ahead and settle around here. Now, I'm pretty sure Burgundy isn't even in this region, so I should probably give it a different name, but whatever. I don't really call these Dutch people because they're not. But we're just going to go ahead and stick with the name Burgundian, so these Burgundian people will go ahead and exist. And in response to this, the Swiss dictator, he's going to be absolutely pissed. And the dictator of the Swiss Republic is not having this, as he will go ahead and quickly launch an invasion into these tribes up here. Now, I guess for this war, I will go ahead and use this, like, rough map. This is obviously the ethnicity map. I will go ahead and delete this afterwards. But to look at this, we go ahead and see that the Swiss will send out an invasion down south, conquering, I guess, the, like, kind of tribes down here. Meanwhile, a huge battle will take place on this river, and the dictator will actually decisively crush these people over here. And eventually, the dictator will subjugate a lot of these tribes, and eventually, a lot of these, like, I guess, kind of, like, what do you call them? Like, top tribes, like, the strongest, I guess, clans and tribes will end up meeting up with the Swiss dictator to go ahead and drop new borders where some Burgundian people are going to be under Swiss subjugation. We go ahead and see that the Swiss Republic will be taking this huge chunk of land from over here. These regions will go ahead and cease to exist. Important to note, ethnicity, it's still Burgundian. They didn't really get rid of the people. Although they did kind of restore Swiss people over to this kind of like lakey region. And they did go ahead and push the boundaries of the Swiss people, I guess, a bit further. However, the majority of the Burgundian people exist. They're just, you know, under Swiss rule. But anyway, that was, I guess, the kind of final, I guess, real event. The only thing left to do is power rankings. And also expansion of the Swiss Republic up into this region here. Otherwise, this border is going to haunt me in my nightmares. So we go ahead and see that the Swiss Republic will push up, and they end up looking something like this. A very powerful state. And let's go ahead and look at ourselves some power rankings. Now, these were the previous power rankings. Let's go ahead and look at the new ones. In number 1, it will go ahead and be the Swiss. Again, they're a very strong country. They're by far the strongest country. Number 2 will be Venice. Their powerful trade empire has prepared them here. Number 3, very close behind, will be Provence. Number 4, we'll go over to Sardinia. And number 5, we'll actually be going over to Valencia. The Grand Duchy of Valencia has absolutely soared up the rankings. They have managed to have some very, like, good leaders. And also, like, they've invented a lot of stuff. I don't know what. I'm not going to give specifics because I'm not, like, an expert. But they've invented some stuff which has boosted their rankings. Number 6 is Dalmatia over here. Number 7 is going to go to Genoa. They still have a very powerful trade, I guess, kind of republic. Number 8 will be going over to the Grand Duchy of Serbia. Number 9 will be going over to Trieste. And wrapping up number 10 will go ahead and be this pink country. Now, as I zoom out, there is a few countries which could be on here. Like Aquitaine, decently strong. Sicily, decently strong. Milan, you might be like, where's Milan gone? They've kind of fallen off. You know, they're probably like 11th or something. But they're kind of facing their own issues. Who else is strong? Montenegro, Macedon, North Macedonia, decently strong. But that's going to be it for the power rankings. Take it with a grain of salt. But basically what you need to take from this is that the Swiss Republic is very strong. And after that, it goes Venice, Provence, and Florence are kind of in their own separate thing. And then everyone else kind of follows suit. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll go ahead and see you in the next one.